3 months ago, I started covering Reddit user Probot748's Minecraft Iceberg. We discussed the first 2 layers, delving into topics like the mysterious desert wells, the infamous Farlands, and of course, the age-old story of Herobrine. Today, I'll be continuing my journey to the bottom of this iceberg, covering the entirety of the 3rd layer, which, might I add, has a lot more entries than the first 2 layers combined. Before we start dissecting this glacial image, I do want to remind you that if at any point you like this video, please remember to subscribe, like, and share this video with your family or friends, as any interaction on your end gives me the motivation to continue working on these videos. They take a lot of time and effort. Also, because this is part 2, I won't be explaining how iceberg images work, so if you're confused or you just happen to miss part 1, check the top right corner or the link in the description for a link to part 1. Thanks for watching, and now, onto the iceberg. Mob votes. Mob votes are special community events held by the devs that allow players to vote on certain features they'd like to see inside the game. So far, there have been a total of 6 votes, each focusing on a different set of mobs or biomes. Now, there are several different entries regarding the mob votes in this layer, so for the sake of time, I'm going to mention them all now. Going from the oldest event to the most recent, the 2017 mob vote featured 4 mobs to vote for, respectively named mobs A through D. Now, in my opinion, these were by far the most unique mobs we ever saw in a mob vote. But of course, this vote ended with the winner being Mob B, which became the Phantoms that we all know and love so much. Released in 1.13. The first biome vote was held during Minecon Earth 2018, where players could vote on the order in which certain biomes would receive unique updates. These biomes were the Savanna, the Taiga, and the Desert, with the Taiga being the overall winner of the vote. With that win, berries, campfires, and foxes were added in the 1.14 Village and Pillage update. The 2018 cat vote was also held during Minecon Earth, where Jeb announced that players could submit their feline companions to be added to the game as the 9th cat texture. This vote ended with 3 kitty contestants left, Jelly, Zach, and Coco, with Jelly winning the contest and being added to the game in 2019. Also in 2019, during Minecon Live, players could again vote for 3 different biomes to be updated. This time around, they were the Badlands, the Swamp, and the Mountains. Of course, the Mountains would win this vote, and later became a part of the 1.18 Caves and Cliffs Part 2 update. The second mob vote ever hosted was in 2020, in which players could choose from the Moobloom, the Isolager, and the Glow Squid to be added to the game. The Glow Squid would be the winner of this vote, and was added in release 1.17. And finally, the most recent mob vote took place during Minecraft Live 2021, where once again, players could vote on 3 different mobs. These mobs were the Copper Golem, the Glare, and the Alley, with the Alley beating out the competition and was added to the game in release 1.19. Minceraft. Added by Notch as a small Easter egg for himself, there's a 0.01% chance for the main title screen to read Minceraft instead of the usual Minecraft. Notch hinted at an undiscovered Easter egg sometime after its inclusion, which led fans to eagerly search the game for the secret. Eventually, on a Reddit post under the r/Minecraft subreddit, Notch himself revealed the Easter egg, along with his thoughts about how hiding Easter eggs is nearly impossible in the modern era of gaming. With the egg being so rare and so unnoticeable, it makes you wonder how many times has your title screen read Minceraft without you ever noticing. Dimension layers. This is a small fan theory that states that each dimension in Minecraft is layered upon each other, meaning that the Nether, being the Hell dimension, is layered underneath the overworld, and the End, with its floating islands and deep void, is located above the overworld. There are official posters that seem to confirm this theory, but in a tweet by developer Dinnerbone responding to user Maximo Giacenti, he disproves the idea by stating that dimensions are, in fact, separate from each other. Infiniminer inspiration. Infiniminer was a game that featured a sandbox world in which players could dig and build freely while competing between teams to find and bring rare resources from caves back up to the surface. Released on April 29, 2009, the game gained some popularity, and while the player base grew, users began to have more fun building structures rather than competing for points. Notch, being one of those players, stated that Infiniminer was, quote, the game I wanted to do, unquote, and while he enjoyed the game, he understood its flaws. Less than a month after the game's initial release, development was discontinued after a source leak was discovered that allowed players to create modified instances of the game. Servers began to fill with hacking players, which made the development of the game hard to maintain. Several weeks later, Notch was inspired enough to begin work on his own project that he would name Cave Game, which later, of course, became Minecraft. Ancient Builders. Have you ever wondered why the infinite worlds of Minecraft are littered with seemingly man-made structures? I mean, desert pyramids, jungle temples, and strongholds are just a few examples of the obviously human-created buildings that can be found around the overworld alone. If you have wondered what brought these structures into the world, you aren't alone. In fact, a fan theory sprouted from that question. The answer? Ancient builders from a long-lost civilization that built several structures on Earth entered the Nether and pillaged its inhabitants, leaving behind nothing more than remnants of bastions and fortresses. But why aren't these builders in the game today? Well, their lack of presence clearly means something large enough to wipe out entire civilizations decimated their community. Or maybe, they're a lot closer than we think. Snapshot 20W14 Infinite. This is the first April Fool's snapshot we'll go over in this iceberg, and it's one of my favorite Minecraft April Fool's updates ever. Snapshot 20W14 Infinite was released on April 1st, 2020. Titled as the first snapshot for the Ultimate Content Update, the snapshot introduced seemingly infinite custom dimensions that the player could access through a new item called the Box of Infinite Books. If a player were to use this item, a random book would be generated that a player could then throw into another portal in order to create a completely randomized dimension. That being said, there were 43 hard-coded Easter egg dimensions that could be accessed using the /warp command, or by writing a single line in a text of a book and throwing that into the portal instead. Feeding parrots cookies. Unlike in the real world, Minecraft parrots love chocolate chip cookies, so much so that if you give a cookie to a tame parrot in the same way you'd give a wolf a bone, the parrot will dance as if a jukebox were playing nearby and drop a single diamond for its owner. This is another one of those cool niche Easter eggs that you should really give a try if you haven't already. Discs 11 and 13. Music discs 11 and 13 are by far the creepiest records in Minecraft. Disc 11 plays the sound of Steve seemingly running from something or someone in a cave, panting heavily as he does. Throughout the record, an ominous harmonic groaning can be heard in the background. Disc 13 is more musically inclined than 11, but still is very eerie and unsettling. Being the only music discs to have such a horror theme, many players have created different theories as to the significance of these records, and with the 1.19 update, another creepy music disc named 5 was added to the game. Maybe, throughout the years, we'll hear the missing 10 music discs in this seemingly chronological mystery. Secret igloo basements. In 50% of igloos, a player can find a secret trapdoor hidden under the carpet of the structure. Below this trapdoor is a ladder that leads down to a basement area, which always contains a golden apple, a weakness potion, one villager, and one zombie villager. These basements are meant to show the player how to convert zombified villagers into regular villagers, and are a useful way of starting a villager farm if there's no villagers nearby. Cave chickens. Occasionally, players may stumble upon a chicken living deep inside a cave. Now, this is just from a baby zombie jockey wandering into a 1 block tall area where the zombie will suffocate and leave the chicken behind. But it would be pretty badass if a roided up chicken were to wander down into a cave and just call it a home. Herobrine is Notch's brother. In the original Herobrine creepypasta that I read in part 1, the author claims that he contacted Notch about Herobrine being his brother. According to the story, Notch confirmed that he had a brother, but he was, quote, no longer with us. This, of course, is completely false, though, as Notch has publicly stated that he's never had a brother. Nether reactor. The Nether reactor was a feature in the alpha versions of Minecraft Pocket Edition. Back then, most phones couldn't handle generating a completely new dimension, so to solve the issue of several items being unobtainable in Pocket Edition, the Nether reactor was created. In version 0.5.0 of Pocket Edition, the Nether reactor core was introduced, and players could craft this item in order to build the actual Nether reactor, in a similar process to the way conduits are used. Once the structure was built, the player would interact with it and a tall tower made up of around 25 stacks of Netherrack would be generated. Inside, the reactor would spew out tons of Nether-related items and zombie pigmen in order to finally give players access to those items in Pocket Edition. Once the Nether was introduced to Pocket Edition in version Alpha 0.12.1, the Nether reactor core became unobtainable, and has since been completely removed from the game. Zoglins. This entry just points out that the Zoglins mobs exist, I guess. If a Zoglin enters a portal back to the overworld, it'll quickly become zombified and begin attacking any mob in the game, excluding creepers and other Zoglins. The same process happens if a piglin enters any dimension besides the Nether. Minecraft Plus. Minecraft Plus was an April Fool's screensaver app released on April 1st, 2021. While it wasn't tied to any part of the actual game, it's a pretty cool screensaver app you can still download today. The box art for the app is themed after old Windows XP software packaging, and the app itself features 12 unique screensavers to use on your PC. You can visit the Minecraft Plus website to download it or run it inside your browser. I'd recommend checking it out if you haven't already. Sand speeds up sugarcane. So, this is an old rumor that I used to hear a lot many years ago, and it's one that I believed for quite a few of those years. For some reason, many people swore that sugarcane would grow faster if it were planted on sand rather than any other block. This isn't true though. Sugarcane grows at the exact same rate no matter what block it's grown on. I'll still keep making my sugarcane farms with sand though, just in case. Education Edition. Minecraft Education Edition is a special version of the game that was designed for classroom use. This version of Minecraft has many exclusive items, blocks, and features that can't be found in any other edition of Minecraft. There are some cut features from other editions that made their way into Education Edition, one example being the camera block that was cut early on in the alpha versions of Pocket Edition. This game isn't freely available though, as in order to purchase this version of the game, you have to meet certain requirements that revolve around being an educator of some variety. Ores near gravel. Another one of those rumors that had no real truth. Many players believed that ores were more likely to spawn near patches of dirt or gravel. This isn't one I'd heard before, but interestingly, this rumor was made somewhat true in 1.16 due to ore generation being connected to gravel patches underground. Hermaphrodite mobs. I discussed this one a bit in part 1, but if you missed that, essentially this entry refers to the fact that a lot of mobs in the game have traits of both genders. Cows have both horns and udders, and chickens appear like roosters, but still lay eggs. Not to mention that when the player model Steve was introduced, it wasn't meant to have a gender at all, and the name Steve only came from a joke Notch made when a fan asked him a question. In a now deleted post from 2012, Notch talked about how he wanted to make sure there were no elements of separate genders in Minecraft, and also stated that since there was only one gender, it meant that every mob in the game was in fact homosexual. Abandoned villages. Introduced in Release 1.10, abandoned villages are a rare variation of the typical village, in which the structures themselves have many blocks missing or replaced with more dilapidated blocks such as cobwebs or mossy cobblestone, and all villagers are replaced with zombified villagers. These abandoned villages have a 2% chance of replacing a normal village, and the zombie villagers inside the structure behave a bit differently than the regular zombie villagers, as these specific mobs will not come out of cover in daylight unless forced to by a player. For me, I had no idea these structures even existed for years after they were introduced, simply from their rarity alone. I just never found one. Tower of Pimps. This entry refers to the popular Minecraft series Let's Play Minecraft from the channel Rooster Teeth. In episode 2 of their series, titled On a Rail, Let's Player Gavin Free constructed a tower made up of 3 gold blocks and 1 obsidian at the bottom, naming it the Tower of Pimps. This tower would later go on to be a trophy of sorts in the series, and was used as a completion goal for many minigames created by the Let's Players. Pack.png. Pack.png is the name of the default image used for texture packs and servers, showing a simple yet iconic landscape from early versions of Minecraft. If you've played the game for a while, you've absolutely seen this image more than a few times, and probably haven't thought much of it. But for the YouTuber SalC1 and the Minecraft at Home team, this image was so much more than just a simple placeholder. After creating a video about Pack.png in 2020, SalC1 initiated a search for the exact seed that this screenshot was taken in. Although seemingly impossible with the infinite amount of seeds, with the help of the Minecraft at Home team, SalC1 was finally able to locate the seed to the world and complete his journey on finding this iconic map. You can view the world with the seed and coordinates on screen now, as well as all 3 parts of SalC1's series about Pack.png on YouTube today. Minecraft 3D. Released on April 1st, 2019, Minecraft 3D was an April Fool's snapshot that claimed to have been an old version of Minecraft released on April 1st, 1994. The snapshot featured many homages to the early 90s era of gaming, with downgraded graphics, a new HUD design, and even an obligatory nightmare mode, each giving nods to that 90s game feel. Rubies. When the trading mechanic was first being tested back in 2012, developer Jeb shared a screenshot of a new item he'd been working on named rubies. Rubies were initially going to be the currency used in the trading mechanic, but due to developer Dinnerbone's color blindness, he couldn't see the difference between rubies and redstone, which led to its replacement with emeralds. That being said, rubies actually remained in the game files for nearly a decade before their complete removal in Snapshot 21W13A. Nether portals were made for Endermen. Endermen are one of Minecraft's most mysterious mobs. They have unique teleportation abilities, a weakness to an extremely common resource, and are the only mobs found naturally in every dimension. Endermen have been the center of hundreds of theories, a lot of which claim them to be interdimensional travelers from an ancient time, which brings us to this specific theory. The Nether portal is 3 blocks tall and emits the same purple particles that Endermen naturally create, which is evidence towards the portal being designed for Enderman use. If Nether portals are meant to be a link to a hell-themed dimension, why would the portal be purple instead of a fiery or blood red? Furthermore, almost every teleportation mechanic in the game is linked to the color purple. Chorus fruits, ender pearls, and Endermen themselves all have the same purple color, so maybe the Nether portal having that mysterious purple glow isn't much of a coincidence at all. Or maybe it is. I'm sure it'll never be confirmed one way or the other. Void below overworld. I'm not entirely sure why this entry is on the iceberg at all, much less the second layer, truthfully, but this just refers to the fact that below the bedrock in the overworld, there exists an infinite void of nothing, where if the player falls in, they'll be killed within seconds. The void is only reachable through creative mode or with the use of glitches in order to destroy the bedrock barrier that separates it from the overworld, although the void itself has gone through some changes throughout Minecraft's history. In the pre-classic era of Minecraft, there was no measure taken to prevent players from wandering off the side of the world, and when they did, they'd be surrounded by nothing but the exact same texture used for the sky. In Java Edition InDev 0.31, an infinite sea of lava was introduced to act as a way to kill players if they managed to enter the void, though this lava was invisible until the player actually fell off into the void. It wasn't until version infdev 20100.630 that we saw what resembles the Void today, with players just being killed automatically when they fell underneath the map. Enchantment font. When you use an enchantment table or place one next to bookshelves, you'll be able to see a strange set of characters that seem to be nothing but complete fictional nonsense. These characters are actually a part of the standard galactic alphabet, which was used in the Commander Keen game series, and they're really easy to decode. That being said, decoding these characters really gives you no benefit, as the words you spell out are predetermined and have no relation to the actual enchantment you're looking at. Though, if you're still intrigued about them, there are texture packs out there that change the runes into their direct English translations. 10-year anniversary event. I mentioned this entry in part 1 when I was going over the seasonal events that take place every year. Being one of the most exclusive events to ever happen in Minecraft, on May 17th, 2019, for Minecraft's 10th anniversary since it began development, a very special Easter egg was implemented in the second pre-release version of 1.14.2. In this snapshot, the cake texture was changed to include large number 10 shaped candles, and the only splash note displayed during this time read "turning 10 years old." Just 3 days after this snapshot was released, the texture was reverted back to normal, and it can no longer be seen, even if you go back to the pre-release and change the time on your computer to May 17th. Fluid interactions. Minecraft's fluids will react in different ways when said fluids touch. If lava falls vertically onto water, the water will turn to stone. But if lava flows horizontally into water, the water will then turn to cobblestone, which is most commonly used to create cobblestone generators. However, if water flows over the source block of lava, the lava will be turned to obsidian, creating easy ways to cross large pools of lava, or even to create nether portals without having to mine any obsidian. Finally, if lava flows over soul soil and is next to blue ice, a block of basalt will be created. PCX textures. For April 1st, 2018, Mojang released a joke texture pack that only used 8-bit colors, making every texture in the game very blurry and nearly unrecognizable, along with all splash notes shown making jokes about how great these new textures were. Zombie villager conversion. Released in version 1.4.2, zombie villagers are a variant of zombies that occur when a regular zombie infects a villager, and can also spawn like any other typical hostile mob, though very rarely. When the player finds a zombie villager, they can choose to cure the villager by splashing it with a potion of weakness, then right-clicking the mob with a golden apple. Doing so will begin the curing process. Once the curing process is started, a special sound can be heard and the villager will begin to shake, gaining a significant strength buff in the process. In Java Edition, the curing process can take roughly 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and can be sped up depending on how many iron bars or beds are nearby the villager. Once completed, the villager will return to normal, and will give the player discounts on its trades, which can stack until the items only cost the minimum of 1 emerald, depending on how many times that specific villager has been cured. Mob lightning conversion. There are certain mobs that change forms or gain abilities when struck by lightning. These include creepers, villagers, mooshrooms, and pigs. When a creeper is struck by lightning, it'll transform into a charged creeper, which has special particles floating around it and causes a much larger explosion. That explosion, when killing any nearby mobs, will make them drop their heads. Villagers will transform into witches when struck, pigs will turn into zombified piglins, and mooshrooms will switch between their red and brown variants. One mob that almost made its way into the game was also affected by lightning, that being the copper golem. If the copper golem were to be struck, it would have reverted the oxidation process, keeping it from turning into a statue. Skeleton horse traps. Also dealing with lightning, these rare mobs only spawn during thunderstorms. When lightning touches the ground, they have a slim chance of spawning. Skeleton horse traps appear to be a single skeleton horse from a distance, but when a player comes within a 10-block radius of the mob, a lightning strike is summoned down, and 3 more skeleton jockeys spawn and surround the player. If the player manages to only kill the skeletons riding the horse, the skeleton horse itself will become passive and tamed, allowing for a cool and rare pet that withers won't attack, making them a very useful tool in Anarchy servers. Title screen world. Before version 1.13, Minecraft always had the same panorama image on the title screen, which made some players curious as to the seed the screenshot was taken in. This once again led the Minecraft at Home team to track down the classic title screen world, along with a lot of other worlds after 1.13 introduced new backgrounds to the main menu. These seeds are all in a spreadsheet today, thanks to the team, and you can check them all out with the seeds on screen now. Swamp/jungle villagers. Swamp and jungle villagers are the rarest variants of the villager mob, due to the unusual circumstances that they're found under. See, there are no swamp or jungle village types, so the only way to obtain a swamp or jungle villager is to cure, breed, or use spawn eggs inside either of those two biomes. Illusioners. Illusioners are a currently unused mob added in release 1.12. These mobs cannot be found or spawned by any natural means, including spawn eggs in the creative menu, meaning the only way to see these mobs in-game is through the /summon command. Though the Illusioner is unused, it has some of the most unique combat mechanics in all of Minecraft. It uses two different attacks, one being a fairly uninteresting blindness effect, but the other, more interesting attack, sees the Illusioner making itself invisible and summoning 4 clones of itself. These clones will appear nearby the real Illusioner and confuse the player on where the Illusioner is really hiding. When the real Illusioner is hit, it summons all clones back into its body and resumes a normal attack pattern until its clone ability is off its cooldown. Although the Illusioner hasn't been given any natural spawn location, it still receives fairly regular updates, with the most recent being in release 1.18, where its texture was slightly changed. Maybe someday we'll get to see this mob finally be given a natural spawn condition. Killer Rabbit. Back in 2014, when rabbits were being developed for release 1.8, developer Holtz revealed a hostile rabbit type named the Killer Rabbit of Carbonog, a reference to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Later on, during Snapshot 14W27A of the 1.8 update, rabbits, including the Killer Rabbit, were introduced into the game. At the time, the Killer Rabbit would only have a 1 in 1,000 chance to spawn, which was later changed to 1 in 2,500 and then changed again in Snapshot 14W13A to only be spawnable through commands. Developer Jeb stated that the reason behind the Killer Rabbit's natural removal was because, quote, "It's a tired joke, and it's been referenced in so many games." Today, this rabbit variant remains unused, and can still only be spawned with the use of the /summon command, with the variant number being 99. Personally, I really would have loved to see this rabbit remain as a rare encounter in the world. I think it breaks up the monotony of a somewhat admittedly useless mob, and would give a cool story to tell your friends with it being so rare and all. MINECRAFT digital leisure device. Another April Fool's joke released on April 1st, 2017, the MINECRAFT digital leisure device was a fake ad released on YouTube that appeared to announce an 80s era console resembling a Game & Watch up for sale. It's a pretty cool little novelty looking device that I and many others would have purchased had it been actually put up for sale. Creeper spread potions. If a player splashes a potion onto a creeper and makes it explode, the creeper will leave behind a cloud of that same potion in its wake, similar to a lingering potion. That's all there really is to say about this one. I wish I could say more. Yeah. Secret languages. If you take a scroll through the language settings in Minecraft, you may notice a few options that seem out of place. Within the language settings, there are a few joke or Easter egg options that players can choose from, these being Pirate Speak, Shakespearean English, Upside Down English, Klingon from Star Trek, Kenya from Lord of the Rings, and my favorite, LOL Cat. Each of these languages are fully implemented, with every item, block, and mob being given a proper name. Sky Dimension. For a very long time in Minecraft's lifespan, a sky dimension has been rumored by the community and, at one point, was even confirmed by Notch himself. The story of the infamous sky dimension starts back in Minecraft InDev, where in version 0.31, map types were introduced. Now, back in part 1, we discussed the topic of map themes, but map types are a completely different setting. See, map themes control what the appearance of the map would be, like with the Hell theme being dark red and surrounded with lava. But map types controlled the actual generation of the terrain, making it possible to have a Hell-themed map with a totally different landscape than what was shown in part 1. There were a total of 4 map types, but the only one relevant right now is the floating theme. If you were to load up a map with the floating theme selected, you'd see several large islands made up of the typical stone, dirt, and grass you'd find in any world, the difference being that these islands were suspended in midair. Now, this of course wasn't any confirmation at the time that a sky dimension was in the works. I mean, dimensions didn't even exist back then, but it does show that there was some interest in making a world type with this floating island theme. Later on, in May of 2011, Notch tweeted out a picture of an actual sky dimension he'd been working on, and when PC Gamer wrote about this tweet, Notch posted an update, stating, quote, "And because PC Gamer made such a big deal of the sky dimension, I guess I'll have to finish it. Consider it confirmed," unquote. This, understandably, hyped up a ton of people, and later on, in a Swedish gaming interview, Notch delved further into the topic, stating that the sky dimension would, quote, "probably be a dream world, and that when you go to bed, there's a certain chance that you'll get dragged into the dream world instead. Then you'll be able to do it on purpose later." The plan was for the sky dimension to launch with the Beta 1.8 Adventure update, but sadly, development for this dimension was halted because Notch wanted to make the Nether more fun first. Eventually, the original idea for the sky dimension was morphed into the end, and although Notch would later state that a separate sky dimension was still planned, Jeb confirmed that the idea was scrapped and was unlikely to ever be done. For years, dreams of a sky dimension were crushed in many fans' eyes, but there was one last glimmer of hope that struck in January 2020. Popular mod developer King B Dogs tweeted out on December 5th, 2019, that by January 2020, he would be moving to Sweden and working as a gameplay developer for Mojang. Now, I'm sure for some of you, the name King B Dogs might not mean anything, but the mod he'd been developing for the past 10 years certainly does. King B Dogs was the developer for the massively popular mod, the Aether. Being the biggest sky dimension based mod in history, many fans theorized that this hiring meant a sky dimension was finally in the works. And I mean, could you blame them? King B Dogs would be the one guy to hire if Mojang wanted to create a successful sky dimension. Like I said though, this tweet was back in 2019, and it's been 2 years since King B Dogs started working for Mojang, with no word about a sky dimension. I still have hope though. I truly believe that someday there will be a sky dimension in the official game, and I think with King B Dogs' help, it'll be one of Minecraft's greatest updates. Dead mobs form Sculk. When a mob dies by any means within 8 blocks of a Sculk catalyst, the catalyst will begin to grow a patch of Sculk near the death location of said mob. This shows that Sculk is comparable to an infection that relies on death to spread throughout the world. Really dark for Minecraft, but I love the direction they're taking this horror element of 1.19. Painting origins. Most of Minecraft's paintings were made by one man, Christopher Zetterstrand, an artist that specializes in creating a unique combination of classical paintings and pixelated computer graphics. With Christopher being his former brother-in-law, Notch reached out sometime in 2010 and got Christopher on board to put some of his paintings in the game, 19 of which would be available in version InDev 201.00223. Excluding the Wither and the Elemental paintings, every single painting in Minecraft was made by Christopher. Each painting has a name and a description available on the Minecraft wiki, and a very well-made video by the Mr. Epic goes deeper into the history of Minecraft's paintings. I'd recommend you check out his video for more information. Chick quadruplets. When throwing an egg, there's a 1 out of 8 chance for a baby chicken to be spawned. Though something I wasn't aware of until researching for this iceberg, there's an additional 1 in 256 chance for 3 more chicks to be summoned from the single egg. 1.rv-pre1. Supposedly a pre-release for the upcoming Trendy update, this April Fool's joke released on March 31st, 2016. This snapshot included many tech-themed items, like a smarter watch and a USB charger block, while making references to several futuristic TV shows and movies like Star Trek and They Live. Zombies and skeletons could be found wearing the new armor pieces from this update, including the reality vision glasses and ankle monitors. not just Twitter. So, unfortunately, after Minecraft was sold to Microsoft and Notch was no longer within the development team for the game, he said some pretty politically controversial things on Twitter that have gotten him into trouble. He's made tweets about his opinions on feminism and heterosexual pride days. He's made comments on his thoughts about race privileges, all of which are topics that are sure to upset a lot of people. From those comments, an official spokesperson from Microsoft had to declare that Marcus Pearson, aka Notch, doesn't reflect the views of Microsoft or Mojang. His tweets are likely the reason he was removed from every aspect of Minecraft besides the credits, and also why he wasn't invited to Minecraft's 10-year anniversary event. Order of the Stone. With the help of fans in an IRC chat, Notch decided on May 14th, 2009, that the name of his newly created game would be changed from Cave Game to Minecraft Order of the Stone. Order of the Stone being a reference to a popular webcomic called Order of the Stick. Notch would eventually shorten the name down to just Minecraft, but the Order of the Stone edition would later be used in Episode 1 of Telltale's Minecraft Story Mode. Ghast Sound Origins. During an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit, C418, Minecraft's composer, revealed that every ghast cry was made by his own cat when C418 disturbed him in his sleep. This is one that I've known for quite a while, but every time I hear a ghast, I try really hard to imagine a cat making that sound, and I just can't. Here, try for yourself. Removed splashes. Over the years of Minecraft, several splash notes have been removed for various reasons, though I'm sure this entry refers to what we just talked about earlier, with Notch's name being removed from the game almost entirely. The first splash note regarding Notch was removed in version 1.8.5. This note displayed Notch Heart EZ, and was likely removed due to his general departure from Mojang. It wasn't until Snapshot 19W13A of 1.14 that any splash notes mentioning Notch at all were removed from the game, leaving the only reference to him in the required credits. There were some other splash notes that were removed for child-friendly reasons, like the note sexy being changed to moderately attractive, and the note hobo humping slowbo babe was just removed entirely. Love and Hugs update. An April Fool's joke released on April 1st, 2015, Love and Hugs was an update that was meant to be a future look at the 1.10 update, though at the time, the current version in development was release 1.9. This update completely removed all damage received or given by the player. There was no health or hunger bar, players couldn't even die if they used the /kill command, and attempting to attack a mob would just result in heart particles floating around it. Several changes were made to make the game more friendly. To give a few examples, dungeons were replaced with homes being made of quartz and containing furnaces or crafting tables. Creepers had their mouths flipped into a smile and would burst into flowers and exploding, and lava was replaced with a liquid cheese that doesn't deal any damage. A cool Easter egg that was included in the snapshot was inside Super Flat Worlds, where a QR code made of snow would be formed around the coordinates 00, and when scanned, revealed the name of the upcoming 1.9 combat update. Zombie Pigmen Green Blood. When zombie pigmen were being developed for the Alpha 1.2.0 Halloween update, they were originally designed with red blood oozing from their decaying bodies. This was later changed to green, with Notch stating, quote, "It's more fun to be scary without blood." This original skin is definitely more off-putting, and I honestly would have liked to see it. I mean, it lives in the Nether after all, the Minecraft version of hell, but I guess it is more creatively fun to try and scare people without using traditional horror tropes. The flattening. The flattening was a major change inside the 1.13 update. one that needed to take place immediately after 1.12 was released. Before release 1.13, Minecraft had a technical limit on how many features Mojang could add to the game, and once 1.12 released, they hit this limit and knew something needed to change. So, inside the aquatic update, Mojang removed numerical IDs for every block and item in the game, replacing them with a string of text. If you've played Minecraft for a while, you'll probably remember that when using the /give command, you'd need to know or look up the number ID for whatever item you wanted. With this update, players no longer needed to memorize the IDs. Instead, they could just simply type the name of the block or item they wanted. The flattening also changed several other technical aspects of the game, but the numerical ID removal was by far the biggest change. Brown mushroom. Added in release 1.14, brown mushrooms are an extremely rare variant of the normal mushroom that only occur when a mushroom is struck by lightning, or once out of every 1,024 breeds of 2 regular mushrooms. How many times can I say mushroom? Although it's exceedingly rare, the brown mushroom only has one defining feature, besides its color, that differentiates it from its red counterpart. That feature being when different flowers are used on it, it'll provide a corresponding suspicious stew. Each flower has a different effect it'll give you. For example, the Wither Rose will give you a stew imbued with withering, and Oxy Daisies will give you regenerative stew. TEA VSRP. TEA VSRP, standing for the Element Animation Villager Sounds Resource Pack, was an April Fool's joke released on April 1st, 2014. On that day, Mojang claimed that villagers had taken over their skin servers, which caused every player's skin to be changed to one of 7 different variants of villagers. Players couldn't change their skins at all, and any real villagers the player came across had their sounds changed to that of the Element Animation's villager characters. A resource pack containing all the changes from the April Fool's joke was released by Element Animations the following day. Tutorial World, Stampy Island. In the last part of the iceberg, we talked about the original tutorial world, and I mentioned that the world would change with every title update. Well, this entry refers to a new tutorial world used for title update 19, where if the player boated off the main island, they could find and explore a full replica of YouTuber Stampy Longhead's survival base, a nod to his success and popularity at the time. Nether Chicken Jockey. Although one might think that a naturally spawning chicken would be impossible in the Nether, there is a 5% chance for a baby zombified piglin to become a chicken jockey. But with the chance of a baby zombified piglin spawning already being low, that means there's only a 0.25% chance of a chicken naturally spawning in the Nether. Man, chickens have it rough in Minecraft. From being lost deep in caves to spawning in a glorified oven, being a chicken fucking sucks, dude. Turtles drop bowls. So, I tried my best to look for an answer to this one, but I cannot find anywhere online that explains why turtles drop bowls when struck by lightning. At one point, it was submitted as a bug on the official bug tracker, but it was confirmed to be working as intended. The closest thing to an explanation I found was one guy saying that if a turtle got struck by lightning, the heat would cook the turtle, hence giving you a bowl to eat it with, but I mean, it's just an empty bowl. If you guys have any idea why turtles drop bowls, please leave a comment. Help me out here. Java Edition 2.0. For April Fool's Day 2013, Mojang announced a project they'd been working on for 2 years, that project being Minecraft 2.0. This April Fool's joke feels exactly like a mod. It really matches the likes of More Creeps and Weirdos, if you remember that one. The most iconic feature in this update was the inclusion of the pink wither, a peaceful variant of the regular wither that heals nearby mobs and plants flowers in a radius defined by how many heads it has. The player could summon this wither by making a structure similar to the regular wither, but replacing the soul sand with pink wool and the wither skeleton heads with potted roses. If the player were to feed this wither sugar, it would grow another head and the range of its abilities would be increased. There were other blocks and mobs added to this update, like the diamond chicken or the ethos slab, a reference to the YouTuber Ethos Lab, though interestingly, some of the content in this update would later be added to the real game. Blocks of coal and stained glass made their debut in this April Fool's joke, and wouldn't be added to the main game until several updates later. one block at a time. So this entry is one of my own. It isn't on the iceberg, and that's because this iceberg was created before this topic existed. The final April Fool's joke for this layer, Snapshot 22W13 one block at a time, was released on April 1st, 2022, and gave us one of the most unique challenges in Minecraft ever. This update essentially removed the inventory, making it so if you wanted to collect a block, you'd have to literally pick it up one block at a time. This meant that when broken, blocks didn't fall on the ground as items, they would automatically be placed in your hands. This of course intrigued many people, and a lot of them wanted to try and beat the Ender Dragon or break the game somehow. There's tons of videos on YouTube with players taking on this challenge you can watch right now. But with that, we have finally covered almost all of Minecraft's April Fool's updates. End Bedrock infiniburn. Similar to Netherrack, when Bedrock is lit on fire, it'll stay on fire indefinitely, but only in the end dimension. This was probably added to keep the bedrock that the end crystals spawn on lit, maybe for dramatic effect or immersion, I really couldn't tell you. Though, this is one that I never knew about until researching for this idea. Netherrack is made of flesh. If you look at Netherrack, it has this sort of fleshy or muscly texture to it. And with the Nether being a representation of hell, it would make sense for this block to be made up of rotting remains. Now, of course, this is just a fan theory, but I mean, it's a pretty damn convincing one. The creator of the iceberg brought up that the original development name of Netherrack was Bloodstone, which gives more evidence to the claim that at least some part of the block was originally intended to be organic. Also, if you look at the original texture for the block, you can see what appears to be an eye, similar to that of Steve's. Wonder why Steve is all alone in the world. And that is it. That is part 2 of the iceberg, the third layer covered. Once again, sorry if I sound like I'm rambling here. I am going off script. I'm just talking to you guys. I want to apologize for how long it took to get this one done. I didn't intend for it to be this long, but you know, life got in the way. This video actually went through me moving and getting sick and having people move in with me. So there was a lot of delays in when I could work on the video, but I got it done, and I hope it was good. I really feel like maybe some of the topics in this layer weren't really supposed to be on layer 3. It just felt like they were a little too common, but I hope that didn't ruin anything for you. As always, you know, if I messed something up or if I got something wrong, or if you think I could be doing something better, please let me know in the comments. Like I said in the first part, I can only improve from here. So any tips, advice you have, I'd love to hear it. Now I won't drag this on for too long. I guess just like, subscribe, share it with your friends if you want. Anything really, it all helps. I appreciate you all. I care about you all. But yeah, that's it.